Dr. Mark Jangizi here with your Science Moment. Today I'm going to talk about masks and being a foreigner in a country. And this also applies actually to those who are hard of hearing. But and I hadn't really talked about that in the earlier episode on the problems that the deaf community, the disproportionate problems the deaf community experiences by virtue of a world that was masked. But my wife is from Iran. I'm part of a community of folks their English is a second language, and of course most of the folks are good. But there's a lot of the folks in the Iranian community in my town that are not very good at English, depending on how long they've been here. And there's folks all over the United States and all over the world who are living their lives speaking second languages, and they get by, especially when they're not particularly very good. They get by much more than any of them realize on the basis of the emotional expressions. They're saying the actual words wrong, the syntax might be wrong, the word choice is wrong, but the emotional expressions and potentially the tenor of the intonation of the voice, but often the emotional expressions and the gestures are sealing the deal. They're turning what's highly ambiguous and or incorrect and making it unambiguous by virtue of the emotional expressions that you can primarily see on the face. So it's a disproportionate problem for those who are speaking in the United States English with a second language, and those who are deaf are also often effectively disabled at speaking whatever the main language is. Often they're not particularly good, or they're just or often very poor at speaking the language, whatever the main language is of the country that they're in, and they're speaking it almost as if in fact, it is a second language to them. And so the deaf community, as well as anybody that's a foreigner into a new country, is dealing with a disproportionate problem when they are in a community where everybody is masked. The deaf not only can't read your lips and these other kinds of problems, it's actually much more multidimensional, the issues involved there, but everybody who is speaking the host language as a second language has disproportionate problems in dealing with their life, as my wife did. My wife deals with lots of people, and for a year and a half, all of the people that she dealt with were wearing masks, and she's constantly, of course, she's partially deafened herself by her own mask, and there's many other reasons but her ability to communicate with them, her accent, her normal ability, she's highly expressive person, highly socio-emotionally smart, kind of regular person, but all of that's now taken away, and she has to really communicate like a logician using actual syntactic English, which she's highly handicapped at. And so this was a real problem. And that was your Science Moment. If you're interested in these kinds of socio-emotional issues and where emotional expressions come from, why we have them, how they really are the true language that we speak, even when we're speaking in English. The true language is the emotional expressive language of negotiation. See Dr. Tim Barber in my book, came out 2 months ago, Expressly Human. That was your Science Moment.